So we're finally underway on our first boutique hotel here in Nashville. And today I'm gonna show you why we decided to do a hotel, how to evaluate these deals so that you can go do one too. And let's talk about if it's even worth doing a hotel in 2023. Cool, so I'm gonna show you guys around the outside of the property first. And while we're doing that, tell you a little bit about the background and how we got here. So I've been in commercial real estate for 10 years now. And this is actually the first boutique hotel that we have ever worked on. I really knew as much going into it as you probably do now. But with my background in brokerage at the Cobble Group, which we've been doing for 5 years now, I knew how to find really good deals and how to underwrite them on a price per square foot basis. And once you know how to do that on one asset, you can really do that on any type of commercial real estate property. It doesn't matter if it's a hotel, office, retail, industrial. If you know how to find good deals and how to look at them on a price per square foot basis and kind of estimate what your construction costs will be, the only thing that's really gonna be different is the income stream, how you actually make money on the property. Why did we decide to do a hotel? Instead of having a specific product type, like an office building, that we go and try to fit within a neighborhood, we actually study our neighborhood and determine what needs to be delivered from there. East Nashville is one of the fastest growing neighborhoods. In my opinion, it's the coolest neighborhood in Nashville, and it has a lot of character, which is one of the reasons why we leaned into doing a boutique hotel. You know, this side of town is much more likely to support a local small business. So instead of doing a big national chain and flagging it with a Hilton or a Red Roof Inn, we decided, let's just create our own local brand that is true to Nashville. Let's build something that was meant to be here instead of something that we're just trying to fit into a box. That's where we came up with the idea for Salt Ranch. This is a mix of Palm Springs meets Southern hospitality. Now, the reason that we went with the Palm Springs is because I like that design. There's not a whole lot of it here in Nashville with its simple pastel coloring and focus on the exterior. And because this property sits on over 2.5 acres, it really lent itself well to that concept for this type of hotel because most boutique hotels in Nashville don't have that kind of land. We're designing around what already exists on this property. We're utilizing all of the land, we're taking advantage of the buildings that are already here, and while they may look a little run down and battered, that is perfect as a commercial real estate investor because it gives us the opportunity to come in and recreate it while we already have a system in place so we don't have to completely start over from scratch. So the property consists of 5 separate buildings. We have 4 motel buildings that make up about 48 rooms for the property. And then we have this central complex right here that was actually built in the 1850s. These motel buildings weren't built until about 100 years later, and that's when the property actually became a hotel. In the 1950s, it was called Maple Manor. Much like a lot of the properties that were developed in the mid-1900s, Salt Ranch is currently a sea of asphalt for cars and parking that we are no longer going to need. So where I'm standing today, we'll actually be tearing all of this out and building a pool for our guests to enjoy. Now the current design today lends itself really well for this historic piece of the property to becoming the bar, restaurant, and really a center for the guests to hang out. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. This will be kind of a grand entrance for our guests. And now we're walking into the bar area. A lot of this building is actually original, including the flooring, all of the casework, and in there you can even see where we have some exposed brick that we will be bringing back to life and really leaning into the property. So here's the nice thing about doing a boutique hotel. I don't have to follow anybody else's program, which means I can kind of break the rules. So instead of having full-time staff on site, really running up our expenses, we're just gonna have the bartenders handling a lot of customer service, as well as a general manager that will be on site all day. Other than that, everybody else will be contractors that will come and go as they need, which will drive profits and of course the value of the property. And that brings us to the pros and cons of boutique hotels. One big pro is that you can be as creative as you want and really design and deliver the type of product that you would like to see out of your property without having to adhere to corporate regulations and standards that may be imposed upon you by a flag. From the research that I've done, boutique hotels are often more profitable. Now, yes, it's certainly more difficult to get started with your booking process, but we can list on all the same websites that a big corporate chain can, and we can take advantage of other websites like VRBO and Airbnb to really make sure that this hotel stays booked. Now, before we get to the biggest con of boutique hotels, which was the most excruciating pain I've ever been through as a commercial real estate investor, let me show you the rooms that we're working with. They're actually pretty well designed where the bathrooms are right in the middle of the two units, which means that you don't have a whole bunch of plumbing in crazy areas. They're just right there, so it makes it very easy on us while we're doing our renovations. And as you can see here, this is actually 2 units that will, of course, not be connected by the time that we're done, but we had to do some demo to get everything prepped for our renovations. So what is the worst pain? Financing. So many lenders told me that if we would just flag it and go with a corporate chain to do this project, they would finance it yesterday. But we ended up having to speak with over 50 lenders, 50 lenders for this one project just to get the construction financing. And we ended up having to buy the land in cash in order to get our construction loan because most banks don't want to lend to a first-time commercial real estate investor in hotels. It took me about 6 months to get this financed, longer than what I was expecting. So it might have actually ended up being about 8 months to get financing on this deal. Doesn't mean it's not possible. So just call the next lender. They'll probably say yes. So that brings me to how we structured this deal. Well, since I syndicate an overwhelming majority of my projects, I actually can't really discuss them publicly. But what I will say is that we paid $3 million for the property and we got a construction loan on top of that. The money that I used to take down the property was all cash. We raised that from investors. You're probably gonna be closer to a 35% down payment. So when I was underwriting the deal, of course, we had to do a whole bunch of research on how hotels operate. They don't just sign triple net leases with their tenants, right? It's all based on average daily rates, revenue per available room, your occupancy rates, all of that kind of stuff, which fluctuate on a day-to-day basis. Y'all know I like to be very conservative with my underwriting. I don't like to assume that anything's gonna go right. So despite all of the renovations, despite the beautiful new vibe that we're going with on the property, I actually underwrote it to perform just as well as the Sleep Inn down the street. And that brings me to, should you do a boutique hotel in 2023? The lending environment is very different today than it was when we closed our loan and did the deal. I honestly don't think that we could make the numbers work today based on where interest rates are and where construction costs are in combination with how unrealistic most sellers are with the value of their property. Commercial real estate's a lot of fun, right? You get to re-envision a lot of these buildings, but what's really cool about doing hotels is that you actually get to run the business too. Highly recommend you add a boutique hotel to your portfolio at some point. Find you a partner that has done hotels before to make your life even easier, and we'll see you guys in the next one.